Thank you for being here today. Good afternoon, everyone. As always, we're here in the Press Theatre at the Legislature on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, Esquimalt and Songhees First Nation. I'm grateful to be joined by Minister Bruce Ralston, as well as Dr. Jennifer Winter from the University of Calgary, who participated in a review we undertook recently. Today, I'm here to announce a new oil and gas subsidy and royalty system for the people of British Columbia. One that will bring an end to inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, including the largest in BC, and put the interests of British Columbia. From rich farmland to dense forests to abundant minerals and metals, hydroelectricity and natural gas, we as British Columbians are blessed with an abundance of natural resources. And our province has done very well by that, but those resources, have to be reminded every now and again, belong to all of us. And for too long, the system of royalties for oil and gas has set us up to a situation whereby, rather than British Columbians benefiting completely from these resources, we've seen extremely large profits for oil and gas companies, while British Columbians have had to pay more for their heating costs as a result. I believe the system has failed British Columbians, and when we came to government, we undertook a review to ensure that we were getting the best possible outcomes for British Columbians, as well as those who live and work around our oil and gas industry. But it was clear, as we asked Dr. Winter and Dr. Oleweiler to review the system, that we heard time and time again that the system was broken, and that is why we're fixing it. By eliminating the deep well credit, the largest subsidy to oil and gas in British Columbia, we will be making sure that there is a fair return for these resources to all British Columbians, so that we can invest in their priorities of improving services, making sure that we're bringing down costs, and of course, primarily tackling carbon pollution. We believe that these changes are long overdue and are well justified in the current environment. For decades, the system has been built up to a place where it's almost incomprehensible to the ordinary British Columbian as to how we got to this place. And I'm very grateful to Minister Ralston and the expert team that he put together so that we could address this issue now in the fifth year of our mandate, or coming on to the fifth year of our mandate as a government. As we continue to make changes to improve the lives of British Columbia, we will also continue to talk and listen to people affected by these choices, First Nations, industry representatives, and of course, workers in the region, particularly in the the Northeast. But all British Columbians will benefit from these changes because we are now resetting the balance to ensure that the resources that belong to all of us are giving a return to government so that we can deliver those critically important services that everybody wants to see here in a province as rich and dynamic as British Columbia. So I'll ask Minister Ralston to go into the details of the changes, and he will also introduce Dr. Winter, who will have some comments about how we got to this place. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks. Thanks very much, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruce Ralston, the Minister of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation. I, too, want to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt Nation. We are here today to introduce a new oil and gas royalty system that puts the interests of British Columbians first and eliminates outdated and inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. This overhaul is long overdue and will replace an outdated system that was in place for nearly 3 decades. The new system is a strong result for British Columbians by providing a fair return on public resources to support vital public services such as roads, hospitals, and by advancing environmental protection and by presenting certainty for investors. The existing royalty system was set up nearly 3 decades ago. Since then, a patchwork of royalty deductions were introduced to reduce royalties paid to the province, including the Deep Well royalty program, which was created in 2003. Market conditions and technological advancements have changed natural resource development significantly since then. Last year, we launched a comprehensive review of BC's decades-old oil and gas royalty system to ensure it is modernized, aligned with the province's climate goals, and provides a fair return for British Columbians. As part of that review, we released an independent assessment of BC's current royalty system, completed by Dr. Nancy Oleweiler, who is a professor at SFU, and the co-chair of the Climate Solutions Council appointed by the Minister of Energy, or Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategies, and Dr. Jennifer Winter, who is here with us today. The independent assessment found that BC's outdated royalty system is broken and does not contribute to government and societal goals. During public engagement, we heard loud and clear from British Columbians they want a system that puts the interests of British Columbians first, eliminates outdated, inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, and is aligned with our climate goals. We're grateful for the thousands of British Columbians who provided their feedback, helping to shape the way we move forward. Today, we're delivering on what British Columbians have asked for. We are eliminating oil and gas incentive programs identified by the independent assessment as inefficient and outdated. Specifically, we are eliminating the deep well royalty program, as well as the marginal well, the ultra-marginal well, the low productivity well rate reduction, and clean growth infrastructure royalty programs. This new royalty framework will result in a better return on resources for British Columbians. Producers will now pay a 5% royalty rate during capital recovery, and that's the time at which companies drill and complete a well, a significant increase from the 3% minimum rate under the current system. Once revenue earned exceeds the upfront capital investment, in other words, the cost of drilling and completing a well, the producers will pay a rate that ranges from 5 to 40% depending on product and price. Establishing rates that are price sensitive will better reflect the value of the resource and provide a greater return to British Columbians. The new system will ensure the public a return of half the profits over the life of any oil and natural gas well. These changes being made reflect the excellent independent assessment completed last year by Dr. Nancy Oleweiler and Dr. Jennifer Winter. In their review, they recommended our move to the new revenue minus cost system. We will need time to provide for an orderly transition to this new system over the next 2 years, while taking prompt action to address the inefficient and outdated royalty programs. The programs will be eliminated for new wells, the ones that I listed, as of September the 1st, 2022, so just a few months ahead. One other highlight I want to mention is that we are in the early stages of developing an environmentally focused Healing the Land and Emission Reductions pool, which will provide the opportunity for existing unused royalty deductions under the Deep Well program to be repurposed to support environmental initiatives. The intention is to focus on those projects which reduce emissions or otherwise heal the land from the impacts of past oil and gas natural gas development. But only if these projects, and I want to stress this, only if these projects are above and beyond current regulatory requirements. I look forward to the coming months as we work in consultation with industry and affected First Nations to further develop the details of the environmental pool. As I've outlined, today we're enacting the review of BC's oil and gas royalty credits to ensure they will meet the province's goals for economic development, economic reconciliation with First Nations, a fair return on public resources, and environmental protection. Thank you. Now it falls to me to introduce virtually Dr. Jennifer Winter. She's an associate professor of economics and the scientific director of the Energy and Environmental Policy Research Division at the University of Calgary, and one of two co-authors of the independent assessment of the current system. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Winter.
Thank you, Minister Ralston, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that I am on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. And the city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. I was honored to be asked to review BC's oil and gas royalty system alongside my colleague, Dr. Nancy Oleweiler, who is not able to be with us today. What we found in reviewing BC's royalty system is that, frankly, it is broken. Current system is overly complex, outdated, and is not living up to public expectations in terms of returning a proper share of the value of oil and gas, protecting the environment, and providing certainty to investors. I am glad to see that the government of BC has taken our advice. It is reforming the royalty system to address these issues. The changes announced today are major steps to overhaul BC's outdated royalty system, eliminating complexity and improving efficiency. These updates are, as the minister mentioned, well overdue and will replace a system that was in place for nearly 3 decades. Updates to the existing royalty framework will take place over a 2-year transition period that will begin September 1st, 2022, with the elimination of oil and gas incentive programs that Dr. Ohleweiler and I identified as inefficient and outdated. The government is eliminating the deep well royalty program, the marginal well, ultra-marginal well, low productivity well rate reduction programs, and the clean growth infrastructure royalty program. It's also important that government continues its ongoing consultation and cooperation with the First Nations who are most directly affected by the energy sector to ensure that this new framework includes their priorities and interests. I look forward to seeing the new system implemented and more details on how the royalty system will incent efficient production and maximize shared value for British Columbians. Thank you.
I think my first question is probably for the minister, although Premier, if you want to weigh in, that would be welcome. The report released in October noted that the current royalty regime is very opaque and complex, difficult to understand. The experts were unable to come up with an estimate for the total cost of administering the program, and they weren't able to determine what share of the royalties were being collected. What do the changes that you're announcing do to address that issue, and how are they going to improve transparency and accountability for the royalty regime?
Well, thank you very much for that question. As you mentioned, the system that's in existence now and is going to be changed, very, very hard to understand and very, very efficient. It adds not only to the administrative cost for government, but it adds to the business cost of the companies that are trying to navigate through and calculate how they are going to pay their royalties. So by eliminating the royalties programs that we're going to eliminate, we'll introduce a measure of simplicity and clarity, and actually will shrink down the regulations, although some of them have yet to be written. But the goal is to make that system much more accessible, much more understandable, and I think we all benefit both in a financial way in terms of reducing costs, but also in access to the public, those who are interested in understanding how our system works. And so Dr. Winter and Dr. Ohleweiler were very clear that the system was bizarrely complicated and needed major reform, and that's what we're doing.